A couple of days ago, OpenRouter released Fusion, which is really interesting. So in a way, it works like multimodal deep research. So a couple of months back, I was supposed to build an automation in n8n that utilizes some kind of a deep research tool, but I couldn't use Perplexity API. So I had a couple of ideas, and I will dump this example really simple workflow, basically a draft for a couple of calls in the description of this video as a JSON workflow. You are free to play with it. So basically what it does, and I've used this Fusion on the UI. So assume you have a lead generation specialist in the company who is supposed to gather some information about the lead or the company, the domain name. And usually if you find a video on research and lead validation in n8n, people would mostly, they tend to use Perplexity API. But we can also use just the simple message and model node with some custom system instructions for the model and built-in tools, Google search, which is more than enough. So in this case, as you can see, I had this model instruction which instructs it to act as a lead gen professional and find some basic information about the domain that I just provided. And obviously it is just a manual flow here, so there is no chat, but you understand how to connect it to anything else. So you will be getting a lead, putting it through some guardrails, extracting the domain, maybe checking if that's the free domain for an email like Hotmail or mail.ru or Gmail. And then instead of using the Perplexity API, if you especially in the company have some workspace access to Gemini models, you already use Google, then you don't need the Perplexity API, and this Google search is actually quite good. So I instructed it to check out this agency from Berlin. I obviously don't have any affiliation with them, but for quite some time I worked with the dark market in the past. And Dach, sorry, not the dark, not this the TV series, but Dach, meaning the German-speaking region. And in this case, I'm just messaging the Gemini Pro latest with the web search enabled, and it returned a couple of pieces for me. So this is like the research that I was interested in, and it found the page, the websites, and prepared some quite comprehensive research, I would say, pretending that I am in the preparations for the cold outreach campaign. So it found some key people in the company, and the financial health and the companies behind that agency, and some websites, key people, pretty much everything that it could find. And now, to expand on this, I tried using the Fusion, the new functionality of OpenRouter. And at this point of time, yes, there is the dedicated node on n8n called OpenRouter message model, and there is this Fusion functionality. So if you check here, OpenRouter chat model, there is this Fusion here, but frankly speaking, I couldn't make it work. So you have some basic stuff in here, but this acts as a model anyway to the agent, and I couldn't make it work. So maybe there will be an update on the n8n side to use it for the router, the dynamic router, and the one they already have, the auto router or the Pareto router. They have a couple of them. Now they have Fusion. And basically what it does, it allows you to message this gateway on their end and specify a couple of models that you want to participate in the research. So imagine like notebook LM, but with the models you specify. You can have up to 8 models. Obviously it is not cheap, but you can specify some Chinese model, like for example the Qwen or GLM and so on, and you need the tools enabled, obviously web search, and based on the query from this Google node here, so from this starter research, let's put it this way, even so it is quite comprehensive. I used Fusion to generate like a preparation checklist for this outreach campaign of mine, really, and I had the leading models participating there. So if we check the query that was prepared by Claude, I'm not that smart, unfortunately, and I spent some time trying to debug this JSON. It wasn't really wasn't that easy. So as you can see, it uses the Fusion on the model OpenRouter Fusion. It used Opus 4.8, the GPT 5.5, and the Gemini 3, and the OpenAI GPT 5.5 was like a summary model. So we had 3 agents running the independent web search. Then they had to consult and basically analyze the discrepancies and the differences and the common threads, and the GPT 5.5 is kind of summarizing this into an edible format, something that they return. In this case, it is you prepare cold outreach campaign. That was my instruction, and this piece was the note from Gemini, so my previous research. And as you can see, is a lot of their information in there. And then after some time, I got a response with a comprehensive checklist to prepare for this fake sales call I wanted to organize. And these results, they came from the OpenAI, Claude, and from Gemini, from 3 models basically running the independent research. So something which is much better than Perplexity API, but obviously much more expensive in this case because I took the latest models. You don't need to do this really. You can specify a number of smaller, cheaper models, the Chinese, and plus it is a research task, so you're not exposing anything to them. You don't even need a guardrails node in this case, because nothing is really leaving your workflow because it's just a research task. You can just specify the domain, like it was in my case, it was just the Foundry. So the Gemini took everything it knows already, and then we had this node, the HTTP node. The request was made to OpenRouter with my credentials already. The credentials are credential type OpenRouter, so the header authorization really, and it is much more expensive, I have to tell you, so just be mindful of the models that you select. But you can pre-specify the models that you're interested in this request, and you will be getting this comprehensive review afterwards. And I'll show you how it works on the UI. So first of all, obviously I tried this with the UI component, and you can read on the Fusion. It was released like 2 weeks back, 10 days ago. And the UI looks like this. So this was part of my task. And then this output that I just copied over from the previous node from the Gemini research, let's put it this way. And then basically a task. A really simple one. I didn't pay much attention to the instructions. Obviously, if you put this into production, make sure to have a meaningful prompt, some limitations in terms of words, characters, and so on, just to make it cheaper, and be mindful about the models. So in this case, I wasn't that mindful either, but I replaced the Gemini with the GLM 5.2. I had Claude Opus 4.8 and the OpenAI GPT 5.5, so a small difference on the UI. Even so, it was a similar task. I was just playing around with the Fusion and the UI itself. So in this case, imagine having 3 different Perplexity API calls, but in this case, obviously we have different models with different web search functionality. So basically 3 agents from different suppliers with a selection of different harnesses, really. So they did the research. It took some time, and then we have the agreement. So they found some issues and some about the details about these people on the website. So obviously it is public data. I'm not exposing anything in here, not doxing. So this was the agreement between those models. And by the way, I think I selected Gemini to be like the coach, like the summarizer. So there is this force model that is supposed to link it all together and analyze the outputs from those 3 agents. So in my case, it found the agreement, found the differences from between those models and the outputs I had there. So partial coverage and unique insights from different vendors as well. So each one of them had something specific that was found, the blind spots, and obviously the results. So that was the Gemini Pro latest. And this is my response, which is different, but I have my checklist like as a preparation for this theoretic cold sales outreach campaign of mine, really. But you can do it for something more serious, something like research on the technologies, research on the ETFs, for example, if you happen to invest your money in something. And it is not bad. You can specify different models. You can make it cheaper by having smaller models and bigger models and cheaper models, and you can combine them. And as was presented in the very beginning of this video, we have the ability to use this in n8n as well, and in a way we are replacing the Perplexity API in this case. Plus we are using a new functionality on OpenRouter. I'm not sure about the caching of those prompts. It is supposed to be working there as well, but we'll see how it works out. In any case, we have one leading research, which is just a simple note of the Gemini in this case, which works pretty well. And I would say if you have the workspace tokens, because you already pay for the Google Workspace, then you have the Gemini key, really, and this research wouldn't cost you much. Plus you already have the key and you don't really need to pay for Perplexity API. And again, in this case, you are not leaking any data because you're just specifying the domain, and you have this basic prompt, just basic instruction to find some information about the agency called Foundry from Berlin. And that's it. But if you want to go a step further, let's say the financial data for your investments, let's say, and or new tech stack, or property market, and maybe legislations and something like that on the migration data, anything like that, you can do this as well. So you have this head agent. You don't really need this. You can even replace it. You can have this. Sorry, you can have this node as your first node. Maybe with some AI agent node that prepares the query for you to make it, well, to avoid the token waste. And then you can have the Gemini node like this one analyze the output from OpenRouter's Fusion and use the Gemini Pro maybe in this case. Or you can use Codex with OpenRouter as another step, as an agent that will summarize it and put it into a document, let's say, for yourself. So in my eyes, it is an interesting functionality. An expensive one also, so you won't run it for everything, and Perplexity API is in this instance kind of cheap, or you can just stick with this one for a while. But it is an interesting development in my eyes, because you are not really reliant on those vendors. So the Gemini Deep Research, the Perplexity Research, the Claude Deep Research as well. So you can use this Fusion functionality on OpenRouter to specify the models that you want to run, and then maybe you can run like 4 or 5 different cheaper models, right? And maybe I will pause the video now and let's run something on the ETFs as an example, using like really cheap models with a big model like GLM 5.2 or the Gemini Pro, let's say, to analyze the results. So stay with me, I'll pause this video and maybe run another analysis, this time on the UI, maybe on the ETFs in the defense sector. Before we proceed, like about the ideas, you just go to the OpenRouter website, you have the rankings here, and you can select the models that are interesting, just play around, select some of them are cheap. You can also rank them by open models, closed models, and you can also take not this week but this month, so let's say, so 20 days, and you will see the leaders. One of the models from Tencent, I haven't even heard of this one, and maybe let's try them in this research for the ETFs. The market share, DeepSeek is big, Anthropic obviously, and what's this? I'm not sure what that is. XAI, okay. So the GLM, and yeah, you can also sort them by cost, I think. I am not sure, but there was this place where you can filter out by the expenses, and also programming and the reasonings here as well, and the context link. In any case, I will select a couple of models now, the cheapest ones I can find, and the tool calls. Obviously in our case the tool is web search, so we need to select the models that can work with web search. So I will go with 6 models, maybe these ones and this one, and maybe this one, 7 models. And I will use the Gemini Pro to summarize the results for my ETF research. And we will take the defense ETFs globally available in the macro broker called XTB, which is popular in Poland. Okay, on the UI, from the looks of it, I'm not able to specify those 8 models they promised, only 4. So I took the most popular ones on this list here. So we have the MIMO, the DeepSeek, the Minimax, DeepSeek twice. I have the Flash and Pro. Maybe I shouldn't use the expensive version. Maybe let's stick with the, what was it, the tool calls. So we have the Minimax twice in here. Sorry, I'm confused about the lists. The tool calls. Okay, so MIMO we have the Gemini, but we won't be using it for the research agent, but we will use something cheaper. So we have Minimax, MIMO, Minimax, and Step. I haven't used Step before. I haven't even heard of this. Step. Open source foundation model. Okay. And the senior analyst, the one that will be linking the outputs together and analyze the discrepancies, the differences, and the common threads, will be the Gemini Pro latest. Obviously, this research will take some time. I will time it and I will share it afterwards. So the prompt is: research the most popular leading ETFs in the defense sector available in XTB. That's my broker. Analyze the metrics, major holders of those ETFs, return a comprehensive list of promising ETFs. Once the wars end, Iran and Ukraine, the defense sector will be focused on drones and anti-drone warfare. My assumption: verify this assumption against the leading analyst takes on the market as of today. Maybe, I'm not sure, maybe we can specify it as task, and in here we'll just use role. I'm not sure if that's needed. Act as a senior investment analyst at Barclays. I'm not sure if that's needed, if it makes sense, or maybe Goldman. And I'll start this. I will time it. Oh, there is a functionality to refine the prompt. I will copy this prompt and let's refine it. Improve your prompt. Analyzing your prompt. How many ETFs? Top 10. It's good as well. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan. Okay, Morningstar, Bloomberg, why not? What is the intended investment horizon of this promising recommendation? Medium term. Additional operational metrics are considered like minimum AUM or daily volume. Daily volume, it would be nice. And this is good as well. So now I will apply it. I'm not sure what the cost of this refinement is. So this is the refined version of that prompt, which is good as well. Obviously you don't have it in the API, so it is up to you. You have to use Gemini or Claude maybe to refine your prompt before you send anything, because this research might consume some tokens. Okay, at this point of time, I'll just start it and I'll get back to you once it is ready. As you can see, we are spinning up those 4 agents in those models, and there will be this final final agent that will summarize the results. So I will time it. While we are waiting for the results of the summarization agent, we can look up the results from those 4 models. So let's check out the step 3.5. I haven't used this one before. So this is executive summary, a list of defense ETFs as I asked. We have the Global X Defense Tech. Yes, I have seen this one before, and this one as well. It's not bad. It is definitely not bad. Direct XTB listing stocks. I've seen this one as well, and the TER is indeed really low. It is not expensive. So the Minimax, also a selection of those ETFs. The table is supposed to be here, and yes, that's the one. We'll see. So in this case, obviously, it is not like a freehand exercise like with lead generation. It is the exact data you can find on the web, on Morningstar and Bloomberg and so on. So this one is more grounded in terms of data. The DeepSeek Flash as well. The shield is there. This one is there. Yes. So they came up with a list of really similar ETFs. BlackRock, Invesco, yes. Global X, 1X, yes. And the summarization agent presumably is done as well. It's Goldman Sachs Investment Research. So in this case, yeah, don't sue me, guys. It is just a system prompt to pretend like we have an analyst in house. So the executive summary, and we have the best top 10 defense ETFs on XTB. So we have the iShares US Aerospace and Defense ETF. This one, Shield, yes, and this one was mentioned a couple of times as well. I think we saw this one, and 1X Defense ETF as well. Yes, so the list is quite comprehensive. The best picks also. Well, it is not bad. It's definitely not bad. I would say it beats the Perplexity research in my eyes, especially knowing the fact that we can see what the cost of this research was. We have 4 models and the overarching Gemini model overlooking this research. The major holders, as I requested, we have the data there. It's definitely not bad. Anti-drone systems. Yes, it definitely isn't bad. And plus you can download it as an MD file in here. I'm not seeing any discrepancies or any common threads in here like we had in our previous research, which might be just the caused by the essence of the data, because we have real data, real articles, and yeah, it is more about the analysis of those tables that were scraped and found on the web, which is great. I quite like this functionality, I have to say. I might use it in the future as well for my research as well. I'm trying to stick to this habit of running one deep research a day and reading the results. Usually it used to be the Gemini deep research, but I might switch because, you know, we have this saying in the post-Soviet bloc, let's put it this way, that one head is good, but more heads is much more beneficial, meaning in this case we have 4 heads and the 5th one which summarizes the results, which is great. Obviously we can ask it for some kind of an investment strategy. Obviously just, you know, for experimentation, let's put it this way. An LLM isn't capable of coming up with an interesting strategy which is new, obviously, and good strategies are not being posted about on the web. Well, that was it. Hopefully this video was interesting. That functionality is definitely interesting for me, so let's see how it all works out with the n8n, the native integration, about those fusion models, and if we happen to get any additional filters there, the native ones in the native model selector, let's put it this way. Thank you for your time. Hopefully this functionality was interesting, and yeah, make sure to try it, to experiment with it, because in a way it replaces the Gemini research and the Cloud research and Perplexity as well. You can combine the models yourself, and you don't really need to build anything like that manually anymore, which is great. Thank you for your time. Ciao.